He says that we should sign Russell Wilson and draft Will Howard from Ohio State and let Russ teach him. Interesting. So draft Will Howard, bring Russ back. Okay, let's talk about that one a little bit too, man. Because to me, obviously, like I said, there are a lot of positives with Russ, man. There are a lot of positives in terms of potentially, him coming back, man, keeping that continuity, having that veteran presence, that same consistent voice. And like I said, man, just having Russ. I ain't about that. Like, Russ suck. I know some people do that. I'm not doing that. That's not me. I don't think he sucks. I think there was some context to why it got bad towards the back end of it, but I don't think the bad was because of him exclusively. I do not. So to me, I like the idea of bringing Russ back, man. I also think that it does give you a lot of freedom when you're talking about drafting a quarterback. I think that if you bring Fields back, you do have to be a little bit more conscientious of who you're drafting, because that could make him feel like, yo, what's the messaging here? Whereas if you bring Russ in or bring Russ back, you can draft whatever quarterback you want to draft, because we all know what this situation is. Give me the best 2 years that you got. If you make it to that second year, great. But give me the best 2 years you got. We're going to bring something in either this year or next year. And that's your replacement. Make sure you're teaching him everything he needs to know. There's nothing wrong with that. We call that business, man. Circle of life in the league, man. You play long enough, you go from being the young guy taking somebody's spot to being the dude trying to knock everybody off and keep them up off your back. And then you become the old head and you like, hey, young boy, come here real quick. Let me teach you the way. Like, if you're fortunate enough to play it that long, man, that's what it becomes. So when I think of Russ, it's like, man, that's the stage that he's at right now. You got about 1 to 2 where you're still going to try to be the guy. And if the situation is right, yeah, he is gifted enough to play the game and get it done at a high level. If the situation is right, if the pieces are right. But if not, I also feel like he is a great mentor. Great ability to lead in terms of just keeping that locker room to what it needs to be, telling the quarterback how to watch tape, telling him how to practice, man, or at least showing the guy, right? Talk about young quarterbacks, man, when they get a chance to see these big time dudes, man, you don't think Will Howard is very familiar with Russell Wilson? Probably looked up to this dude at some point, man. So yeah, man, I could definitely see where, bringing a guy like Will in there could help him out. I'm also like that on a Jalen Milroe though. I'm like, man, if not Will Howard and you want to stick with the dynamic type of player that a Justin Fields is or potentially could develop into, man, go bring in a Jalen Milroe. Let him be the guy to learn from a Russ. Let him be the guy to kind of, all right, let me follow this. Let me talk that. That for certain could work. Whereas I think if you have Fields back and you bring in Jalen Milroe, I think it gets weird. I think Fields is looking like, yo, why did you bring that in if I'm here and we still worried about me developing? That's my only, hesitancy with that. But with Russ, I think we have that type of flexibility. With Russ, I think we can have a lot more, like I said, man, just freedom to go about this quarterback long-term answer, whether it is via the draft or trade, man. So shout out to that right there, though, man. That was a fine little question right there, man. All right, I like the strategy that you're trying to implement right there. All right, I could definitely dig that strategy.